And we're going to go through this again. And really one of the fundamental building blocks is how do we organize and kind of structure what's going on. And for the guys, for Dave and Logan, really what this is one of the most important kind of first skills that we've got is how, you guys have heard this for years, right? You got to set goals, right? This is the new concept, right? The question becomes, how do we do it, and how do we move it for us to be able to function, right? And one of the biggest things that we talk about is there are 3 different kind of phases to any of the things that we want to do, right? So there's we call it our directional planning. So that's going to be our goal, right? What is it that we want to accomplish? So the language of this, though, starts to get kind of important here. It's funny. We are in such a unique place because we've got all of this stuff in place. And we're trying to get the leadership team learning it so that we can start having multiple events, multiple meetings, multiple conversations at the same time. Because to have newer folks that are coming in, to have older folks that are coming in, like it's the bulk of my business before was we run it one way, you show up, and it's kind of like the train's going, your job's just to catch on as quickly as you possibly can. And there's a handful of people that figure that out, and a whole bunch of people that get thrown off the side of the train. And then the standard is, well, you didn't know. We don't want that experience here. And so this morning, part of what this is, part of what this conversation is that, right, this is driving me. Tell me that's normal, right?
Completely. So it's got to be talking from there.
So this. So what are we doing? Why are you here? How old are you? 16. You're 16, and you're 17. Okay, and you're not 16 or 17.
I was.
And so, right? And so one of the really fascinating things is, right? So Sue's been in business for 15, 16 years. I've been in business for 20 years. Arson's not 16 anymore, right? We've got a 16 to 17-year-old in the room. And the question is, how do you create a space for value for very different people in very different backgrounds and very different experiences and very different phases of their life? And what is it that we're actually creating? Why do we wake up and show up here on a Saturday morning? What is it that we're creating? And when we talk about what this is and what we are doing, there's a tremendous shift occurring in our primary business, right? For the longest time, our number one objective was we would recruit people to the primary opportunity, right? So Main Street families broke, right? No one has any idea how to plan for their future. They don't know what kind of insurance they need. They don't know what kind of retirement accounts that they need. They don't know how much money they need to set aside. They don't know how to get out of debt. They don't have the proper coverage. They don't know who to talk to. They worry about it later, right? All of these things are going on, right? When you drive home, right, as you're driving down the street, just turn to the left and to the right, and all of them are doing something wrong with their money. Every single one of us. Why? Because without the tools and the resources, there's no way to accidentally do it right. Now, there are a handful of people that'll pay somebody to be able to come in and be able to show them how to build a plan. The problem is the average plan is somewhere between $300 to $3,000. Did most of us grow up in a house, right, where people were going to spend a couple $1,000s to have them tell them what they should do with their money? No. And so there was a line of people who'd show up and sell them something necessarily, but not come in and say, hey, here's the strategy. Here's what it is that you need to do. We learn from our parents and our friends what to do with our money. And most of us don't want our parents or our friends' financial help. And so from a Primerica business, right, how the company was built, how it was formed, it was, there's a really big toxic problem in the financial services industry. No one's coming. No one talks to us like we can talk to us. So let's recruit a bunch of people. Let's get them licensed and trained to go tell the message that here's a better way for your money. And if you reach a bunch of people, you have the ability to build a team of people that can tell that story. And that is a very, very successful mode and methodology to building a financial services, a Primerica financial services sales team. Does that make sense? Right? Where really the premise is we're going to recruit people to market Primerica products to people who desperately need products like Primerica has. Does that make sense? You all seem excited about this. Now, here are a couple things with that. If you're going to build, if we build a business that way, there are a couple things. One, we need to find people that are willing, open and willing to market financial products. Is that right? So we're going to kind of go in a very basic kind of mindset as to what this is, right, Arson? Right, if you want to know why we made some of the shifts, you've heard us talk about these shifts. What is this about? Let me make sure this is right. Yeah. Okay. Mercury's full retrograde. That's crazy. But in order to do that, right? So if you're going to build a team that'll market financial products, you've got to find people that are open and interested in marketing financial products. Have you always wanted to market financial products? Been excited about the idea of selling insurance and investments like since a little kid? No. Okay. So, but that's what you got to find. The second thing you got to find is how do you get into a house? How do you find somebody to buy your product? Right? Well, in business, there's a handful of ways that we can do this. What are a couple of ways that companies get in to sell their product? Anybody? Okay, so they do online. So they'll do advertising of some sort, right? Why? Because what happens is they put a commercial on TV and someone sees it, and really what they do is they build their brand, and then if there's a need, right? Would you like to save 15% or more on your car insurance? Yes. Okay, you make that call. Do you have your driver's license? Okay. If you didn't have your driver's license, do you need to save 15% or more on your car insurance? No. So does that commercial do you any good?
Now it does.
Now it does, but if you didn't have your license, does it do you any good? Right? So advertising does two things. It builds a brand so that someone goes, oh, I've heard of them. They must be a good company because we are very simple creatures as human beings, right? If we've seen something enough times, it must be good, right? It could be a freaking train wreck. We can't tell because they never show us the books. They just have a pretty cool commercial on TV, and we're like, well, they must be good. They've got a funny actor. Like that really is the simplicity of us as human beings, right? And so it builds a brand. And if somebody needs it, then they take advantage. That make sense? What's another mode of a company getting somebody to buy something? So there's direct advertising.
Solicitation.
There's solicitation, right? So there's spamming your emails, right? There's, what's other forms of that, right? There's mailers at home, right? Which is just like a commercial, but it's a little bit more active. Right? They could go door knocking. Someone could show up at your door and say, hey, would you like to? Right? So do you have any of us have a couple $1 million to put your team brand on TV? No, so that's not going to work. Do any of you click on the spam? Hey, if you want to free this, click this button from a complete stranger. Do any of you ever do? No, so that might not be the most effective. Do any of you want to go door knock? Hi, my name is, I'd like to sell you insurance. Does that sound like a riveting? No. Okay, so we have a couple problems here. One, most of us didn't dream about financial services. Two, none of us have the capital for advertising or the desire for solicitation. Look, it's like, so is the meeting over? Like, we don't have much of a business now, right? So these are the dilemmas, right? So if we don't do passive marketing, advertising, or active marketing, right, solicitation as a business strategy, how are we going to grow? Well, if we're in the financial services industry, the way the Primerica business grows is we say, look, right, if you could make an extra $500 a month, would that make an impact in your life? Part-time. Yeah. All right, so here's the thing. You didn't really dream about financial services, but you see the value in helping people. Yes. Okay. Well, if we get you licensed, or right, if you got right through this process, if you come in and if you tell our story to somebody and they see value, then there's a way to help them. Okay. So the Primerica opportunity itself was designed to, let's recruit a bunch of people. The problem is you can't get licensed. So if we spend an hour, let's just say that you found out, David, that your parents had the wrong life insurance and weren't saving money in the right places, right? So we spend an hour today on a training. We talk about how universal life insurance works, right? That they pay for two things, only get one, their families get devastated, if something God forbid happens, right? They don't pay death comes, whatever this is, which is actually true in the industry. And you walk out of this meeting and you go home to your folks and you're like, hey, do you guys have life insurance? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, can I see it, read it? It turns out that it's universal life. And you're like, man, I don't think this is good. You call up Sue. And you say, Sue, I think my folks had that stuff that you guys talked about today. Does it make sense? Now, do you have any interest in selling insurance? No. But if you found out that your parents were in a program that wasn't good for them, would you want to help them?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is you call Sue and you're like, Sue, I think they have this. Folks, I want you to meet Sue. Sue, show up. Sue walks through, does the presentation. Turns out they have the wrong stuff. Sue goes, look, my number one job was for David to see how this works, but if I could help you, would that be okay if we helped you? So if Sue could help them, what's the likelihood of them saying yes? Okay, so now you didn't have an interest in marketing financial services. You didn't have an interest in soliciting life insurance, right? And your parents didn't actually they didn't feel like they had a need. So if there was a commercial on TV, would they have thought that they needed to talk to somebody if they already had something? No. So the passive advertising doesn't work. The active solicitation doesn't work because if someone would knock on their door and said, hey, can I help you with your life insurance? What would they have said? No, because they have it. Does it make sense? But there's an opportunity for you to be able to grow. So all of a sudden you're like Sue. So Sue comes in, helps them out. They're all excited, like, David, this is cool. This is great. You helped us out. This is fantastic. And Sue walks away, makes $1,000. She tells you how great you are, how important this is, how fantastic this is. And you're not licensed, and so we can't pay. But that's okay, because you're going to go on 10 or 15 more appointments. And then let's say you're 18. Let's say you're licensed. So then when you get licensed, what you're going to do is you're going to recruit other people that aren't interested in financial services, aren't interested in selling insurance, aren't interested in advertising and marketing, aren't interested in soliciting, but whose folks probably have the wrong stuff, or whose cousins have the wrong stuff, or whose best friends have the wrong stuff. And when you're licensed and trained, you're going to be able to take them to their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins, and you're going to be able to help them that way. So your marketing strategy is recruit a bunch of people before they're licensed, get them to take you to a bunch of appointments, help the people, because we genuinely help the people, make money, and then tell them that when they get licensed and trained, they can do the same thing you're doing. Does that make sense? And that is the Primerica strategy for business marketing. I went on 26 appointments before I got licensed. I lost about $8,200 of cash flow on those 26 appointments. I was 22 years old. Now, some people go, that was really stupid. Maybe it was. But since then, I probably have earned about $2.5 million in field training other people. Would you invest $8,000 to make $2.5 million? It's a pretty good investment. The challenge is, for the people who make it through that process, it's a phenomenal process. Right? I went on a bunch of appointments. I learned my business. I learned my skills. Right? When I got licensed, I recruited a bunch of people. I took them to go see a bunch of people, and I helped them do that system, and I helped a lot of your parents. So I was like, why is this complicated? The challenge is that if you went on 8 or 9 or 10 appointments and didn't make any money, could that affect your self-esteem, drive, or commitment? If you had no interest in building a marketing financial services, no interest in selling insurance, and really didn't want to, right, to be able to market and grow, like, we have a problem. But from a business standpoint, the truth is, how do I say this the right way? I didn't care. And the reason is because the 10 people you took me to go see, I probably recruited 3. And so they took me to their next group. Does it make any sense? And I'm telling this story because we've got a variety of different people in the room, and I want, we now have an opportunity to learn and grow. And the pace in which we attack what we're doing is going to have a tremendous impact on the speed, impact, and opportunity. And so my goal a little bit for this morning is for people to be like, oh, this makes so much more sense. Because the more convicted and committed we get to what we're doing, the stronger and faster we learn it, the more of an impact. So we sat back and said, okay, we have the same dilemmas. We're in business. I'm not really motivated about financial services. I want to make sure my parents are taken care of. I want to make sure my friends' parents are taken care of. I want to make sure that my grandkids or my kids or my nephews and nieces or my friends' nephews and nieces or my best friends' best friends' kids are going to college because I have access to those tools. And so the impact moves me, but the products and opportunities don't. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Okay. But being in business, we still need a marketing strategy. Right? Like, that doesn't change. I don't care what business you're in. If you're going to do online sales, I talked to someone and they're like, I'm going to start a company that's going to compete with Amazon. Great, right? There's lots of people who want to sell lots of things and buy lots of things. So that's fantastic. Here's the dilemma. You have to get them to type in your search, your site, and not Amazon. Right? Facebook is trying to get people to search for Facebook to become a search engine. Right? Well, that's great. But when I need to know something, I don't go to Facebook to search. I go to Google to search. And so they might have just as good of algorithms that gives me all the things that I need. But if I don't know that, where do I go? Google. And so Google benefits from me and 9 gazillion other people because Google's become a verb, right? It's become an action, right? And so from a business standpoint, that's always the dilemma. We have the same dilemma. So the question became, what's our marketing strategy? I want to be successful in business. I want to help a lot of people. I want to make a ton of money. I want to make a tremendous impact. And I want to be free. That's an interesting combination, right? To be able to make a tremendous impact on people's lives and make a tremendous amount of money and be free. Like, can we all see the power of those 3 distinct points, right? right? So you can be really good in business where you make a lot of money and maybe your business makes a tremendous impact. But you know how hard it is to be free? Because if your business is based on you, who has to be there? You. And so, are you free? No. You've got a really good job. Now, there are lots of people that are like, dude, I'm totally free. Fantastic. I can do what I want with whom I want in any fashion style I want, as long as it's on a $19 budget. Fantastic. You're free. And you might donate to children's hospitals. You might donate. You can be, free and have impact. But it's really hard to be rich. So the question becomes, most of us, if the opportunity is in front of us where you could have all three, would you want it? Most of us don't even entertain that. We're like, well, that's just unrealistic. And I'm crazy enough to go, well, why? And I read a book a long time ago that said what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So if I can believe, right, that I can be rich, I can have impact, and I can be free. If I can conceive that I sure as hell can believe it, then I can, unless the book lied to me, then it can be done. And so that's what we set out to create. Is this making any sense at all? Yeah. Right? So that's fine. All right.
We like it.
Was that?
We like it.
You're fine.
Yeah, you just don't look at it
Right.
this way.
And so we think about, so we've got this thing. We said, okay, well, we want money, impact, and freedom. And we need a marketing strategy. And we need a marketing strategy. So we take these points and then we do something else. We looked at this. So you guys are just going to right? And we looked at this Main Street problem. So let's take a couple minutes to make sure that we understand what this gap is. So the idea of this says, the wealthy have people who wake up every day and say, how can I help? Why? Why? Well, who wants to be rich? The people sitting there. Well, why is that a unique combination? Because if you have money, you can afford to have things done. Right? And so you get to attract people that know how to do things. And then you can pay them. And so the smartest, most capable, most organized in the service industry says, well, I'm really good. Who should I serve? Should I serve the people that have no money? Should I serve the people who have some money? Or do I serve the people who have a lot of money? Who do they serve? Ones with all the money. Now, when we're young, right, we have this, as we get older, like all of a sudden, it's funny. There was a, because I'm now an old guy. But I grew up with Google. Like I didn't grow up typing in Google. I grew up in business with Google growing up in business. They're formed in 2001, right? I went vice president in 2000, January 2000. Like, so I started my business right about the same time they started their business, right? They're a little bit more successful than me, right? But like Google was 20-year-olds. 20-year-olds love foosball and free food. And so Google got really good when they grew, right? They had badass campus and they had massage part, like masseuses online. They're like there all the time. And they had all the food that you want, a dry cleaners, like so you never had to leave. like you could just work, you could hammer out for 18 hours a day. You only had to be there for 8 hours, but since you could eat gourmet food and all of your stuff was here and all your friends were there and they had foosball tables and pool tables and so you could hang out there, why would you go home to your apartment when all your friends and all the things you wanted was sitting 12 feet from your desk? So all of a sudden, they're like, hey, we're paying you for 8 hours a day, but you're working 18 hours a day because your friends are in a project and you're picking that up, and that's part of what got them to explode. Because at 20 years old, 22, 23 years old, what do you want? You want a party, you want access to all the cool stuff, and you don't want to worry about it, right? They didn't have a great maternity or paternity system in place. You know why? Because they were 23 as a group. That make sense? Now they're 34. What do 34-year-olds now want and need? Dude, you can take all the time you want. Netflix came out. You can go, you have a year. You can go out. They're all like, you can take 6 months to a year. You can go part-time. You can go full-time. You can do whatever you want. In the last 18 months, they've developed this entire like parental like game plan for people that are going out on maternity or paternity leave. They can take all the time they need, all this other stuff because the projects are in place. It's been front news stuff. And everyone's like, oh my God, they're such forward thinkers. No, they're not forward thinkers. They're solving their problem because they're now not built. The foundational leaders aren't just the 20-year-olds. They still have the foosball tables and the catering, but their mass leadership team that's been with them for 12 to 15 years is now starting to raising families. And so they're like, we can't be here for 18 hours a day. And they're like, well, if we have 3 of you here for 6 hours each, that's the equivalent of 1 of you for 18 hours, but you've got all this institutionalized knowledge. We'll build the systems and we'll pay you commensurate with that, but we'll give you the flexibility. Does this make sense? So they're solving their problem. Well, why did I tell that story? I don't know. But the interesting thing about that is, so you get the best of the best saying, okay, we're going to serve the wealthy because the wealthy have the money to pay us. Now, there are some people, crazy and bleeding hearts, that are like, yes, I could go make a whole bunch of money there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to join the Peace Corps, or I'm going to become a social worker, or I'm going to, and they don't serve the wealthy, they serve the poor. And they get a lot of emotional credit, right? They get into a conversation with people that have sold out, right? Who are out chasing the world, right? And they're like, oh yeah, you're making, you and your BMW, I'm saving the world. And so the people that are serving the wealthy get financial credibility, and the people serving the poor get emotional credibility. And so the best of the best that are served that way go there. Make sense? So who's left? Right? And so all the average people that are smart and good, but they're not quite as smart, they're not as talented, would all love to serve the wealthy, but they get into a competitive situation with one of the ones that are building and serving this group, and they're losing. And so they're like, I guess I'll help these people. No one's inspired to help these people. Us. And so when we looked at this and said, okay, there's 70 million families that make between $25,000 and $250,000. 70 million. Can we agree that's a lot of families? All of them have the same goals and dreams as the wealthy, but they don't have access to the same tools. So all of them need help when it comes to their money. There's something called, and you guys should learn this, there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What it says, and you'll study it, what it says, is it talks about our base roots. It starts psychological, structural, security. So basically what it says is, if you're worried about where you're going to eat or where you're going to live, there's nothing else on your mind. And if you've ever been in a place where you're worried about where you're going to live or what you're going to eat, you know what it feels like. You get into a conversation with somebody that's talking about helping other people, and it's such a luxury you can't even get your head around. Once you have your, I know where I'm living, I know where I'm eating, now it's, well, what am I going to do? And now it's the next phase of how am I going to take care of the next round of my future that allows me to grow. And then as you take care of that, you start building up. And then ultimately you get into the creative and the self-worth and the helping other people and all this other stuff. Well, you can't really worry about helping other people unless you're taking care, right? You'll hear people make a joke about a first world problem. You know, it's like, oh my God, my phone's cracked. So sorry, my phone's cracked, right? And it's like the world's coming to an end when our phone cracks. Well, you know why? Because we know where we're going to sleep. We know where we're going to live. We know how we're going to get there. We know where we're going to school. Like, we know what's going on. We know so many things that our creative energy goes to, well, what's next? Shit, how do I get my phone fixed? The problem is that emotionally it feels as raw as if we're not sure where we're going to live because we don't have a comparison. So we said, okay, in the financial services side, why financial services? If we were going to build any business anywhere, why financial services? Well, if we could solve that emotional financial burden for a group of people that no one else is talking to, couldn't we make a fundamental impact? Because no one's doing this. So we're like, okay, so the people who want to make an impact, if we could legitimately create that financial security for that group of people, where someone could say, if I die, I know my family's going to be okay. And if I live, I know my family's going to be okay. Like, that's actually really pretty important from an emotional stability standpoint. Because if you don't know how to answer that, you don't even know that you should. Commercial comes on TV. We don't even know it's important. We don't pay attention to it. Because if no one's had the conversation that this stuff's important, how would we know? And so we looked at that. But the problem is that this group of people, you guys are 16, 17 years old, you're going to learn about the Rule 72 and about mutual funds and about how money works, right? You hang out, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. You're going to have, if you spent the next 12 to 24 months learning everything we're talking about the industry, you will have access to every tool any high-level financial planner has at their fingertips. You'll have yours, which is remarkable. Here's the truth. You go to college, you get a good job. You save and invest with every principle we teach you. We will get you financially secure. But you will work for 40 years. Maybe 25 to 30 if you're extra committed. And then you'll replace about the income that you worked yourself to at your job. Which means if you got yourself to $150,000 a year or $200,000 a year, fantastic. If you desperately disciplined, focused, saved, and followed the game plans, by the time you were 55, you could probably have $4 or $5 million saved, which would pay you $16,000 to $20,000 a month in passive income, which sounds great, but that's 200 grand. And so if you got yourself to 200 grand by the time you were in your 50s, and you retired, and you replaced, and you retired, and you still got a check for 200 grand, that's pretty good. But can you do what you want and whom you want in any fashion and style that you want? No, you're not free, you're secure. Now, if you take that $4 or $5 million and you take the $200,000 and you have children and you teach your children how to save and invest from the time they're little, right? And all of a sudden, by the time they're 40, they've got 10 or 15, $18 million saved. By the time your grandkids are 40, they've got $25 or $30 million saved. Now they're free. You're 16, you're 17 years old, and I cannot get you free. No one can. having a single source of income is the mode. If getting to go to school, getting a good job, and having a single source of revenue income is your source of income, nobody can create freedom. It's just math. And try it 9 different ways. Outside of one caveat. If you grow your income to 200,000 and you live off 50 forever, then when you retire, you could probably live off of 200 and it'll feel like you're free. But we're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Because what we're not going to do is get you 20 million working. It's just math. Arson can't do it. Should we end the meeting now? All right, this is the second place where people are like, you suck, right? But I want you to understand why we've done what we've done. See, the Primerica marketing strategy before was recruit a bunch of people that don't necessarily have a lot of interest in financial services, but they want to make a bunch of money, give them an opportunity, get them to the license class, let's go see some folks, let's teach them, let's get them all caught up with it, let's make them feel like they can accomplish something, let's give them recognition and trophies and contests. And we know that, right, 1 out of 10 is actually going to pass their test. That means 9 out of 10 aren't. And that's okay because they're going to lead us to the next group. And that's Primerica's marketing strategy, and it's effective. It's created more 6-figure earners and more millionaires than any company in American history. I ran it that way for 15 years. I was #1 in the country. I'm really good at it. The challenge for me was, the challenge for Sue was, the challenge for Adrian, the challenge for our RVP team was that there were a lot of people along the way that we told everything was going to work out, knowing that they weren't going to be able to do the things that we did. And that sucks. And so we still need a marketing strategy. But we also want to be in alignment with who we are. So how do we do that? Well, I'm sitting here looking at Logan going, there's nothing Sue can do to help you get free with our products. We can help you get secured, which is incredibly important. Because Arson, you're not 17. How many people showed up in your adult professional life giving you a structured plan to make sure that you are financially secure and that your kids are taken care of and so that your grandbabies are absolutely stone wealthy? How many people? Okay, so the fact that someone showed up and saying, let's fix it now, is a pretty important piece to the story. So we can't lose sight of financial security is a tremendous impact. And yet, none of us really want to sell insurance or investments as like what we do. So we need the impact, but it's not who we want to be. And we don't want to take a bunch of people and throw it against the wall, look for the one person that's going to figure it out, and everyone else say, oh, so sorry, thanks for your, tokens. So the only way to get wealthy in this country in one generation, there's not 6, there's 1. And that 1 is ownership. Well, there's professional athletes. Professional athletes are independent contractors. You know what they are? They're owners. Musicians are independent contractors. You know what they are? They're owners. They're selling a very particular product. A construction owner is selling the building of a business. A musician is selling entertainment. They're both marketing themselves as independent companies. The only way to get free in this country is ownership. That's it. And anyone who tells you anything else is lying. Now, the only way to get free is not just Primerica. Right? If I stood in front of you and said, the only way to get free is Primerica, that would be as dishonest as anything else. And that's actually an incredibly important part of what it is that we decided to do. Primerica is a phenomenal resource. You know why? Because 70 million families are stuck. And if someone could find a way to service those 70 million families, they could probably build a pretty significant business right or wrong. But if we stand in front of you and say, our mission is to actually close this gap, then what we've got to do is we've got to provide access to ownership, not access to Primerica. See, in our opinion, the best way to learn, apply, and master the skills necessary to build a business is to build a business. I'm going to say that one more time because you're going to hear it a whole bunch of ways, a whole bunch of times. The best way to learn, apply, and master the skills necessary to build a business is to build a business with coaching step by step. Does that make sense? So we said, look, David, is there ever a business that you've ever dreamt about having?
Yeah.
What kind of business?
Clothing business.
Clothing business. Okay. So I have a question. You're 16 years old. Do you have right now the entrepreneurial skills necessary to be successful in business? Skills. Do you have the support system locked in so that you could turn to the folks you needed to help you grow that more? Do you have the capital reserves in place to be able to do that? What if over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long it took you to develop the skills, the support system, and the capital reserves, you had one-on-one coaching of learning how to build a particular business so that you could learn the entrepreneurial skills along with the productive skills. You could develop a support system that was always in your corner and understood your mission, and you could grow capital reserves so that when it came time to open up your clothing line, you knew how to be a successful entrepreneur. You had a group of people in your corner that were there to support, and you had the capital to make sure that you could survive the development stages that you needed to. Do you think you'd be in a better place 4 or 5 years from now to be successful as developing a clothing line than if you just kind of winged it 5 years from now when you got fed up with your job and just said, screw it, I'm going to go do it on my own?
Be better off.
Right? The best way to learn, apply, and master the skills necessary to develop a business is to build a business with step-by-step coaching. And so it's not, in my old business, David, I would be like, clothing, do you know how many clothing lines there are? Dude, really? Man, you got to be an RVP. You got to open up offices. You got to make $1 million. Man, I can show you're 16 years old. You understand the next 2 years, we could have a team of 50 people on your team by the time you're 18. You could be a $500,000 earner by 21. You could be a $1 million earner by 24. You could be the youngest $1 million earner Primerica's ever seen. Man, we got to make Primerica all about it. Now, it sounds pretty good, huh? And if I told you that every day for the next 2 years, guess what you'd probably believe? Man, you'd be all fired up about all Primerica all the time, which is fantastic. But do you want to sell insurance? Not either. So at some point, let's say that at 18 or 19, you didn't have 75 people on your team. You weren't a $180,000 earner. You were learning how to, right? You're 18 years old, learn how to build a doggone business. And you're like, frig, man, I'm making $4 grand a month. And he said I was going to be making 20 grand a month. And all of a sudden that clothing dream starts kicking into your head. And I'm like Primerica, and you're like close. I'm like Primerica, and you're like close. I'm like Primerica, and you're like close. Are we in alignment? No. I'm like, no. Clothing line, fantastic. Here's what we do. I think we could get you to be a vice president at 18 or 19 years old. I think we could get you to $500,000. I think we might be able to get you to $1 million earner by the time you're 50, or 24 years old. Could you imagine being 24 years old, having 1,000 people inside your organization that understand the mission and passion that you're on, a cash flow machine that pays you $80,000 a month, and the skills to be an entrepreneur, what you'd be able to do at 24 years old to market a lot, to launch a clothing line? So now you've got the resources financially taken care of and the opportunities to be able to go grow to be the entrepreneur we want you to be. See, I raise entrepreneurs. The best way to learn, apply, and master the skills necessary to build a successful business is to build a business with step-by-step coaching. So that's all we do. My job, our job, is to teach the entrepreneurial skills necessary to have the skills in line, the support system developed, and the capital reserves created. Now, guess what? How do we lock in our support system? We're going to go tell them our story. What story are we going to tell? Main Street family's been left behind. We've got access to financial literacy and entrepreneurial literacy. Let's say your folks had the wrong kind of life insurance and we're telling the story about our impact. Are we still going to help them? Of course we're going to help them. Now, it's harder when you're 16, right? But let's say you're 18 years old, right? I met with a guy yesterday, right? He's like, I got like 6 people who need what we do. I'm like, great, we better get you registered for school. Why would I take him out before he's licensed? He can't make any money. I've got to grow his capital reserves. Why? Because the stronger he gets, the stronger he is. And so what we're going to do, what you have an opportunity to learn, the reason we develop the skills that we've got, the reason is the clearer you get at what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the people, you put the people in your corner, you have the ability to do anything. Now, will there come a point, Logan goes, well, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do this. Will there come a point where you're like, man, I want to start this business, and Sue sits down with you and says, great, man, you've got the skills, you've got the reserves, let's talk about your passions. Now let's evaluate the path that you want to take, the clothing line or the growth, because I think you could open 50 cities. And now we get to have a legitimate business conversation that says you're phenomenal at raising entrepreneurs and you're passionate about computers. You want to build an app. I got an app for, right, a buddy of mine or one of Robin's clients, right? I can't remember what it's called. They love beer. And so there's an app that says they love predicting. You can put it up, it's on tap or something like that. And it's like you can put in the kind of beer you want and it'll tell you what bars in like your area have that beer on tap. Tap Hunter. Right? It's one of Robin's clients. Right? I think it's a great thing. That's meant for beer drinkers that love draft beer. Like that's a great app. So let's say Logan's like, I love like beer. Like this is Logan. And we're sitting down and we're like, well, look, let's talk about your business. But now we get to have legitimate business conversations about what do you want to do over the next 10 years. But it's built on strength. It comes from understanding and it comes from you having the skills to be able to do anything. The reason I know that is 6 years ago, I sat in this room with a lot of the skills I'm talking about and said, do I want to do this? And I decided the answer was yes, because I love raising entrepreneurs. I love introducing these ideas. I love hearing that you're using some of the principles in your life and you're starting to develop these habits and to give language to it. I love that your confidence allows you to grow, to be able to come back and go, man, I want to learn more. I want to apply more. Because the clearer you get, the stronger communicator you are. The more you believe in the impact of what we've got, the more reach you can have. And the more reach you have, the more profit you can create. And the combination of that will be unstoppable. We have a marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy is we want to recruit people that want to be entrepreneurs. We want to give them the tools and resources necessary. And one of the most important resources that an entrepreneur needs is 50 to 100 people in their corner. We call allies that have them completely understand and support what they're doing and why. Because we can't find everybody. But if Arson's got 10 people, and if Arson's daughter knows, right, if your older daughter is how old?
27.
She's 27 years old. If his oldest daughter understands what Cindy and Arson are building, why they're building it, the tools they're building it, and all of a sudden she's 27 years old and gets into a conversation with somebody who needs to make extra money or has an entrepreneur spirit or wants to create something or wants to put their kids to college or anything there. Arson doesn't have to be there. Arson's daughter gets to be the commercial. Arson's daughter gets to be the marketing strategy. Not, oh my God, you got to let my dad sell you insurance. Because that's not what Arson does. What Arson's learning to do is to raise entrepreneurs. To help people with language on the skills that they need. To develop a support system so they don't take on the world alone. And to grow capital reserves so that they can take care of their emotional stability needs so they can always operate in creativity. That's what Arson's learning how to do. And so the clearer Arson's daughter gets on what Arson's doing, the stronger of an advocate. Now all of a sudden she gets into conversation with her friend Billy at work, and Billy's like, man, I know I'm stuck. People ask me all the time, who are you looking for? Right? A lot of times people say, I want their PhD. Poor, hungry, and driven. Right? I want somebody who's got their PhD. They're poor, hungry, and driven. See, I don't really like that was my old business. I like hungry and driven, and they've maxed out their opportunity. But they haven't maxed out their capacity. Someone who's showing up every day, hitting it, but the job will only pay them here. Because the dilemma is, if you're married and you've got a couple of kids, even if you're stuck, can you leave? No, because the money I make isn't enough money to provide for my dreams, but it's enough money to put food on the table and the wolf away from the door. And my job as a father is to make sure that there's enough money on the table to take care of the family. And so we're stuck. The reason we exist, the reason you're learning this, is if Billy, Arson's daughter's friend, is stuck, but he's got skills. If over 6 to 12 to 24 months he learned how to grow his entrepreneurial skills, develop a support system, and grow his capital reserves, would he have the opportunity to potentially build something special for his family? That's what we do. And so the reason that we're here, the reason we are, is about constantly clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it and why these skills are so critical. Because it's what separates us. It's what gives us clarity. It's what allows us to organize our thoughts in a way that when we sit with somebody and we show them what we're learning, they have the ability to go, I can do that. And our answer is, of course you can. What we build is language. And language allows for speech. If Arson understands how to organize his thoughts and his communication, he can explain to his daughter that much better. If Arson goes, I'm learning about insurance and investments, and then we're going to teach other people how to sell insurance and investments, because that's technically what we're doing, isn't it? But if he tells that to his daughter, when his daughter gets into a conversation with Billy, is his daughter looking at Billy going, oh my God, you've got to talk to your dad, talk to my dad because he can teach you how to sell insurance? Is that the conversation Arson's daughter is going to have? No. Because if Arson doesn't want to sell insurance, does Arson's daughter want to tell other people that his dad's learning how to sell insurance? But what if Arson's daughter is talking to Billy and Billy's stuck and Arson's daughter's like, you know what, you got to talk to my dad. He raises entrepreneurs. He's worked with a couple. He's worked with a group of people that have built this thing. And he's really, really good at helping people learn how to build the skills necessary to run their own business. Billy, have you ever thought about running your own business? Yeah, I want to open up a car wash. Man, we got this formula. I don't know what to do it. But man, if you spent a year with my dad, you'd have all the tools necessary to be able to open up that car wash and to be able to operate it from strength. Really? Your dad will hook me up with that? Yeah, he meets with his dad. Well, what do you do? How can you help me with my car wash? Well, I can't help you with your car wash, but I can make sure you can stay and grow a business. because I can teach you the skills, I can help you develop a support system, and we can grow your capital reserves so that when you open that car wash, you have 150 to 500 people at your grand opening. You've got the money to pay for it and the skills to communicate your story so that you never have to start over. Does that sound a little bit different? That's what we're doing. That's why learning this is critical. And so this morning, really what I want to do is, this was my commercial. My commercial is, we need a level of conviction. We need a group of people that are sick and tired of not being able to articulate it, that don't know. Right? We are all, right? We have our reptilian brains. We are all controlled by a very simple concept, the path of least resistance. All of us. There is a 0% chance of circumventing that concept. You are driven by the path of least resistance. You are driven, I am driven, we all are. Now, people like to fight me on this one because they're like, no, I take the hard road. Like, yes, I do. Dude, I did this, this, and this. This is way harder than that. Yes. And the reason you did this, this, and this is because the price of what you got was less than if you would have taken the easier path, because then you'd ended up over here. The pain of not doing something was greater than the pain of doing it, or vice versa. Right? When Robin got pregnant, right? Because I've been through this before. I'm like, all right. I was about 174. My weight was about 174, which is a little higher than I wanted it to be. I'm like, all right, let's dig in. Right? January 12th, I was 190. Right? Which isn't a lot, but it's 6 days. But it was, we went out, we ate, and we did. And I'm like, I don't worry about it, right? So she had the kids, and they almost made it to a year. And I'd gotten a little heftier. And I didn't care. I wasn't working out. I wasn't dieting. I wasn't watching what I was eating. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I was taking the path of least resistance. Does that make sense? Then we had the twins are going to be one on February 20th. We were in Mexico, and we had so we're going to take 1 year pictures. Like, take a lot of pictures in 1 year. We kind of look at each other in Mexico. We take a lot of pictures in 1 year. For 1 year. What do you think? Like, we know sooner or later we're going to get back into shape. We're about 6 weeks away. What do you think? All right, let's go. Start dieting and exercise. Why would we diet and exercise? Because the idea of not dieting and exercising was actually more painful than the idea of. We took the path of least resistance. This makes sense? If you want to get yourself to do something, make what you need to do less resistance, less painful than the thing that you're competing with it. I can't get myself to study. Get the idea of not studying more painful. I'm having a hard time learning this stuff. Make it more painful to not know it. Guess what you'll do? You'll learn it. This is where we are. And so I'm excited that you guys are here. I'm excited that we're learning this stuff. We have an opportunity to take this to the next level. We have an opportunity to build a business, because I'm telling you, if you spend the next 2 years with Sue learning, you spend the next year learning, we can't pay you a dime. Because you're not licensed. You can't get licensed. But 2 things. One, if you have an older brother or sister, you can recruit them, and all sorts of creativity can happen. But here's what you can do, is you can learn everything, and you will at some point walk into a job. And when you're able to articulate yourself, explain a vision, explain a mission, be able to create strength in language, you will collapse 10 years. So I asked you, does it make sense to invest $8,000 to make $2.5 million? And the answer is yes. Does it make sense to invest a couple years to collapse 10? If nothing else happened, you walk out of college and you go into an interview and they ask you, well, if we gave you this project, how would you be able to do it? And you looked at them and said, well, the first thing I'd have to have is my directional goal. And it sounds like it's this. So we'd have to accomplish these 4 things because we've got the strategies in place. And now these would be the tactical opportunities to be able to go. Because most people will go straight from goal to tactical and they'll miss the strategic goals. And you'll have 5 or 6 years of mastering that. You will be so much clearer than anybody else. It borders on being ridiculous. And it's that little piece of paper. So we have an opportunity to have some fun, to learn this stuff. We've got our meeting on Wednesday night. We got our Saturdays, and we really want to grow. I don't want to be running these Saturdays. Somebody else could run the meeting I just had. Someone else could run why? Someone else could run, right? This is about raising and developing the leaders, because what can be learned can be mastered. What can be mastered can be taught. What can be taught can be learned. If I can teach it and you can learn it, you can master it. If you can master it, you can teach it. If you can teach it, someone else can learn it. This is how we have explosive growth. Good? Cool. Because one of the things we know is it's all about access. It's good. Love you guys. I'll let them know. Any questions? Good? Excited? Helpful?
Thank you.
Absolutely.